work every day with deaf kids, and I always kind of like to give a little bit. There is a blurb I think that Miss Katie sent out with the email that kind of just talked about me a little bit, and I always just like to go through it again, because one of the big things I always tend to do during these classes is not only are we learning about ASL, we're also learning deaf culture as well. It just kind of ties in because they're so connected. And you will see, I love what I do. I love ASL. I love learning about deaf culture. And I can get a little bit on like stories and go very much talking all about it. So I always like to warn people, it's not just, okay, here's these words we're going to practice and be done. No, I do a lot of telling of like how things, for example, how you would communicate with a deaf person. What are some kind of things you'll notice, and what's actually not considered rude, or what's actually can be considered rude. We go through all of that. So also that means you guys are more than welcome to ask me any questions you have, not only about ASL, but about deafness, about deaf culture. I have coworkers who are deaf themselves. And so if you ask me a question and I'm not sure, they know I do this class, and I always am like, hey, I have a question, and I have some people who are curious, and they're always more than welcome for to help me out. So, and that being said, I did not grow up with ASL. I started ASL my junior year of high school. I've been using it for about 7 years now. I've been actively signing for about 7 years. So that there is some words that I may not know the sign for, or it's one of those where you fingerspell. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Usually I'd say this later, but I'm gonna just kind of get this out now. And it's not necessarily a thing of like, oh, you just don't know these words, but it's like, with English, you're not going to know every single word you see. If you went through the entire English dictionary, you're not going to know every single word you've seen in there. You'll know most of them, but not everyone. And in ASL, sometimes we don't have signs for words. They are, you spell them out. So I always kind of give people that if you ask me questions about, well, what's the sign for this? What's the sign for that? And if I end up, saying, oh, there is no sign, or, I think there might be one, I'll check back on that. So anyways, let's get started. We are going to start with the ABCs, and then depending on how you guys are kind of feeling, we can see if you guys are ready, wanting to start with numbers. Excuse me. Some classes are like, oh yeah, let's go, and we're in our numbers already. Some like to take a little bit more time knowing the ABCs. Either way works for me. Very flexible in this class. Very much, I want you guys to kind of voice your opinions and let me know what you would like prefer, because I'm here to help you guys learn ASL. I'm not here to just be like, well, I'm going to do all this and then you're going to have to listen. No, this is a group kind of thing. It's not really a, I'm standing up here going to present and you guys have to listen. It's a group effort. So, all right, let's get started. So the first letter we're going to do obviously is A. Oh, one more thing. I want to do this because they haven't done it yet. I have 2 dogs. I have a Jack Russell Terrier, and they are one of them is a yappy girl. One of them is a black lab, very deep bark. Sometimes I have to mute myself to let them out, or move them kind of away from the front, because like I live in a neighborhood that's very busy. There's just a lot of people. So fair warning, if you hear barks, can be my dogs. Very good chance it is. They love to bark during my class. So I just like to let people know in case they're like, what was that? I'm like, it was me. It was me. So, okay, now we're going to start. So the first letter is A. And so what you're going to do with A is you're going to rest your thumb on the side of your fingers. Yeah. A. And then we have B. So B is 4 fingers up and thumb across. Then C is super easy. We all know this one. C. And then D is going to be your pointer finger. And you're going to make a circle or an O. You did F. Did you do F, Miss Katie?
I just want to say in my own defense, okay, maybe it's kind of in Gillian's defense too. I have a bad habit of doing F instead of D because I don't know. And I was thinking on the way home from work today, I'm going to do D. I'm going to do it correctly. And so when you were like, did you do F? I was like, did I not? I did it correctly this time.
Good.
I do it wrong all the time.
It's easy to do. That's why I always try to be like emphasize, because that's actually a very common one. It's getting our D's and our F's mixed up, even though they look very different. It gets it. So that's why I was like, I saw her laugh. I was like, did she do it again? There's always one person who gets them mixed up every time. So here's our D. And then what we do for E is we're gonna have our bent fingers. You don't want them touching your thumb. For kids, sorry, I know I have a Band-Aid. It's just, I cut my finger yesterday, huh? But for usually for smaller kids, because it is kind of hard to always kind of keep your fingers like that, bending back like that is okay as you're younger. We tend to try to do more of this lower one. And the reason why is because we always look at this as like a screaming E. I got in trouble in high school because I kept doing this as my E. And my teacher would look at me and go, why are you screaming E's at me, when I was trying to like practice finger spelling? So yeah, I was very proud of it. And I'd be finger spelling. She's like, you are screaming E's at me. I don't like it. And I was like, I'm so sorry. So our E's are not touching our thumb, but they're very close. And then we have our F's. Yes, like that. That's perfect. Our F is going to be our pointer finger and our thumb. F. Then G is going to be like we're doing like the little pinch, little small sign, and you're going to go forward. G. And you'll turn it kind of on its side so that your pointer finger, yeah. So bring it forward. Yes, like that. I tend to show the motion of what your shape is doing before, and that way, yeah. G. H is going to be the same thing, but with now 2 fingers. H. And then our I is our pinky. And then J. So J can be, I learned it one way, and then I see others that do it a different way. So I'm going to explain. It's not a big difference. I do my J's J, like the motion of an actual J. When I was learning ASL, I was taught left-handed goes in, right-handed goes out. So you see, it's that same motion. And then I started talking to some people, and they were from some different states, and that's something that's kind of an interesting thing with ASL is it's not always going to be exactly the same every, not even let alone country, but every region. They have like their own little changes. And one person I talked to was like, you don't have to go out. You can still do that inward. So like going inside. It's hard for me not to do that way with when I'm doing my right hand, just because that's how I was taught. So you can go J inside or J outside. More people tend to do that inside one. So J, we're going to stop there. We're going to go back to our A. So we have our A. Then we have B. C. D. E. F. G. H. I. And then J. Now, K is like, I think everyone's least favorite letter to learn in the very beginning because it's so awkward when you're trying to figure out how to do it. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a 2. Your middle finger is going to go forward. And then your thumb goes between them. So you have a 2, middle finger goes forward, and then thumb between. Yeah. People, what happens is if your hand's not used to making that shape, sometimes it almost kind of feels like it's not comfortable, like it hurts. That happens. It's normal. I remember thinking that too. I was like, that is not comfortable. How am I supposed to make a K? And my teacher was like, the more you practice, the more it actually gets natural feeling. So do not worry if you're like, okay, that just feels so weird. It kind of is meant to be if you've never signed before. So we have our K. And then our L, which is another easy one, L. And then for M, you're going to go 3 fingers over your thumb. And you almost want to make sure your thumb is kind of sticking out a little. M. N is now 2 fingers over your thumb. And then O. And then P is going to be our K again, but now down. Bent. P. Then we have Q. So Q is that pinch down. So it's like that little pinchy something. Yeah, Q. Then we have R, and R is crossing your fingers. R. Okay, now we're gonna go back to our K. How to sit there and think which letter we stopped on, and go through them again, and then we'll do the rest. So we have our K. Then we have L, M. So 3 fingers over your thumb. I always like to think of, if you look at your fingers, it almost looks like the shape of an M. So then we have our N, our O, our P, and then our Q, and then our R. R. Now, you probably will notice I do very much lift my arm a lot when I'm doing like Q's and P's. You actually don't have to lift your arm like that when you're doing, like, if you're trying to fingerspell a word, like if you're trying to fingerspell pickle, you don't have to go Pickles. You can keep it natural. The reason I lift is I'm trying to almost emphasize to you guys to see that I'm moving forward. Since we're through a computer screen, sometimes it's hard to see how I'm making the motion. So I can be very dramatic. And I am very dramatic. So I do that to help you guys, but I want you guys to know, like, you keep it in comfortable position so your arms don't have to go up every time you're making like those letters. You can keep them relaxed and keep them here. So I'll notice, I remember in the beginning of the classes when we first were starting, I was doing that and I saw everyone else was doing it with me. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh no, I'm making them think that this is the whole motion for this letter. And I was like, no, it's this. So, okay, then we have our S. Yes, because we did R. So S is going to be the same thing as A, but now the thumb is over our knuckles. S. Then our T is going to be 1 finger over our thumb. And I don't know why this made sense to me. I always think of the motion of a T. It looks more like an X, but it looks like a diagonal T to me. And I don't know, that like clicked with me. I'm one of those people, I like to visually make connections. And if I don't, it's kind of hard for me. So that's, yeah. So this is T. U is going to be 2 fingers together pointing up. Oh, excuse me. Then we have V. And then W. And then our X, like a pirate. X. I don't know why. Again, that mindset just makes connections, like makes sense to me. I don't know why. Then our Y. Yeah. Y. And then, which this kind of does make the sense. And then our Z is going to be a pointer finger and you make the Z motion. Some people do ask me, is it really make a difference if you went from like right to left and then that way, or going left to right? You tend to want to make the motion that would make sense for the person opposite of you, but it's not something that people are going to look at and go, I have no idea what you're saying because you went like this. They're like, oh no, that's not a letter. No, they know that's Z. So that's the nice thing with ASL is like, it's, it's not always so strict as much on certain things that we would think. So, okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through the whole alphabet together again. And then if you guys are feeling confident, I'm going to let everyone take a turn finger spelling their names. And if you need help, obviously I'm here. I'm going to help you. Like, it's not putting you on this, you have to have the spotlight on, you have to do it yourself. No, I'm here to help. And then after that, we'll practice my name is, and I'll practice like finger spelling some words for you guys to see. So, all right, let's start all the way back at our A. I'm gonna be kind of delayed. I'm gonna voice it and give you guys a chance to really test to see if you know it, if you remember it. And then I'll come in with my letter the second time. So A. A. Then we have B. B. C. D. I always think of a lowercase d with mine. You know, I'm left-handed, so sometimes it flips for me, but for right-handed people, it looks like a D. I mean, it looks like a lowercase d, if that helps. Mine's backwards, mine's a B, but I know it's a D. So then we have our E. E. F. F. Then G. G. It's that pinch and then kind of down. Yep. Then we have our H. H. They're so close. Yeah. Then we have our I. I. And then J. And then K is that V with the going forward. I love how I'm describing K. I said I was going to be delayed and I still showed it. I think this one's just the biggest challenge for me in my mind. So that's why I'm always like, I gotta be there. Our L. L. Then M. M. Then N. O. P. P. Then Q. Q. Pinch and yeah, down. Then R. R. Then S. Same as A, but with the cross with the thumb over it. T. T. Then U. So S is over it. So S is in front. Our A is on the side, and then T is under. That makes sense. Yeah. A, T, and then S. Yes. They're very easy to get mixed up. Then we had our U. U. Then V. W. X. X. Y. And then Z. I remembered someone in our class I mentioned, because I always say this every time I teach X, I don't know why I think pirate. And someone finally, I remember they told me they could see why, and it was for X marks the spot. And, you know, pirates are always like hunting for treasure. And I remember that I was like, oh, you're so right. And I forgot about the story. I was so happy, y'all, when they told me that, because I was like, I've been wondering for years why every time I go X, I'm like pirate, or like my mind just goes there. So that's just a little fun story to think of whenever you think of the letter X. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to finger spell our names. The sign, so the word finger spell is basically what it says. It's basically saying, for me, if I was gonna do my name, and I'm gonna hold my hand doing it because I tend to go a little fast, I'm gonna slow down for it, is I would do Gillian. And so that's what it means when I say finger spell. This is the sign for it. It's like you wiggle your fingers just kind of back and forth across. I will say that a lot more in the classes later on. And so I was like, I probably should address this now and tell you guys what that means. It's a finger spell. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get everybody a chance to finger spell their names. You can do a nickname if it's easier. If you need more help, I will be watching and then I'll kind of come in. I tend to just do what I see on the little blurb. Like mine says Gillian May, and then Miss Katie says Katie Mullering. So like, if that is not your name, and I apologize, like if I'm trying to figure spell that, just let me know what letter you're looking for and I'll help. So, okay, Miss Katie, I'm going to put you on the spotlight and go first because you should know yours by now.
I think I do. It's good I don't have a D in my name. So
Mm-hmm. Good. Yes. All righty. And then I have Jessica. Mm-hmm. 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 So for the two S's, yes, I knew you were coming with that. What you do for the two S's, you have the S right, was across the thumb. There are two ways you can do a double letter, like two letters. You can what's called slide them, or you can double tap. So like for mine, because I have those two L's, I go G-I-L, slide I-A-N. You could also do like, I'll do yours for this, J-E-S-S, like do this bounce bounce. You can do that instead of having to slide across. It's up to whatever you're most comfortable with. So, mm-hmm. 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 Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. Yes. Awesome. All right. And then Sandra. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. The D. Yeah. So then D. Yeah. And then R. Yep. Yes. Good. Good. You guys are kind of lucky you have names that are not as long. We had this poor girl. She had just the longest name and about 10 different letters in it. And I remember when I first said that, her eyes just went, and I told her you could do a nickname. She was like, okay, thank you. So it's always kind of nice.
Can she do her name too?
Yes.
I signed both of us up, but obviously we're here in the same place. So her name is Zara, so it's very similar. It's S-A-R-A. Do you want to go ahead and do it?
Well,
Put it in the camera.
Yeah.
And now A.
Mm-hmm.
Hold it up in the camera.
okay.
There you go.
And A.
Good.
okay, what about your Sarah? What about your brother?
I don't know. He's actually only 3. He just looks so big.
Oh, he's 3.
He's
Oh.
taking along today because we all had the flu, and so my
Oh, I'm sorry. That's awful.
he wasn't really supposed to be here today.
Well, I hope you feel better, buddy. That's awful.
Mhm.
We want to do more.
You want to do yours?
Yes.
Okay, well, you may need some help there. His name is Henry.
Henry. Oh, okay. We have a
Right.
couple of Henrys we know. That's why
Yeah,
we were
my,
like,
my son's name is Henry.
Can you do this? Like, take the other hand. Take the other hand and do here. Yeah, hold it in the camera.
Yeah.
It's good. You
Yeah.
got it right. But yeah.
no. And then our E,
Mhm.
like I said, if he does, there we go.
Yeah.
And then N is
Yeah.
the 2 fingers over your thumb.
There, 2 over your 2. Only 2.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Good. And then R,
Can you click them
together
together?
your fingers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go.
And then Y.
And then R. And then
Yeah, good. You got it.
Good job. Yeah, you're never too young. I think one of my favorite things is seeing really young, because my school has preschool kids. So we have kids as young as 3 at our school. And I'm not gonna lie, watching them sign is like the cutest thing in the world because their hands, they're still learning it. So like I said, it's those letters, they're like, they get closer, they'll do the E and then the N. And it's just so cute. So, but it's like it's almost a great practice for their hands, getting them used to it too. I was laughing too because Miss Katie said her son's name's Henry. My dog is named Henry. So we have now 3 Henrys in this group, and I can only imagine if one of us ends up talking to the other Henry and confusing ourselves. So, but awesome job, you guys. Okay, So now what I'm going to teach is how you would say my name is. One of the cool things in ASL is that the way that their sentences are, it's not, because ASL is not just English. It's not English put in your hands. It's a whole different language. So they have their whole setup for the sentence is different. Not too much though, which is nice. But so when you would say my name is, you don't have, there's certain words you don't have to actually sign. They're just not in an ASL sentence. So that one, the word is. We don't really have a sign for the word is. There technically is one, but it's not really used. It's more for signing exact English, which is a different language. Oh gosh, I knew he was good. Sorry, I heard him scratch and I was like, oh no, he's gonna whine in a second. I'll check on him. He's good. So how you would say my name is you just actually would say my name and then you would finger spell your name. So the sign for my is my. My. And then name is going to be 2 H's and you're going to tap them on top. Name. So my name. And then you would spell your name. So I would go, my name is Gillian. Now, I'm sorry. I try not to go so fast. It's really hard for me not because like I was one of those people when I first learned ASL and ABCs, I was like, okay, we have got to get this down packed. And I could get it so fast that I have to slow down when I'm talking to new people. Even if they are deaf, they're like, you finger spelled that way too fast. I'm like, I'm sorry. So, but that's how you would say things like my name is. If you want to ask someone what their name is, what you do is you go, your name. And then the sign for what, which is what. So your name, what? Yes. And so, sorry, got a little distracted. I have a list on my phone and I swear every time we have a new class, have a class, something on it always distracts me and I have to look and go, wait, what is that? But, it's nothing ever big. It's just me being that person. So that's how you would say my name is and what is your name. We are going to get more into like our question words and why what is at the end of the sentence. If you kind of were wondering that, we will talk more about that later. That's probably like our like 3rd or 4th class, one of those. So, okay. So I'm going to give you guys 2 options right now. And one of them, I mean, we could also even do both in the end too. So there's technically 3 options. One is we could practice where I finger spell words. And they can be, I mean, short, they're as short as words like cat, 2 words, as long as I pretty much use this word almost every class. I'm trying not to, but like refrigerator or microwave, because I tend to do a lot of kitchen ones because I'm in my kitchen. So, but we can practice where I finger spell and you guys read to see if you can kind of match the letters. The other option is we could go ahead with numbers and kind of start those, or we could do both. We could do a little bit of practicing finger spelling and then start some of our numbers. What would you guys prefer? I'm gonna leave it up to you guys.
We would do both.
Okay.
Yeah, both. I say both.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So we will do, I'll say about 10 different words, and then we'll go on to some of our numbers. So, and what I'm going to do with my numbers is I tend to, not numbers, words, as I tend to start really small and then get bigger, depending on like how comfortable you guys are feeling with it. I kind of try to really see how, you know, if you look like, okay, this is might be hard, then I'm going to keep the words a little shorter. If you're like, oh, this is too easy, I'll make them bigger. So, all right. So number 1, okay. Okay, and you can either say it or you can type it in the chat, whichever works easier for you guys. All right, I'm gonna spell it again. So that first one was dog, D-O-G. Funnily enough, my dog was being a little him silly self right behind me. That's why I kept looking down, because sometimes he will scratch himself and like end up not hurting himself, but hurting him a little bit. And so I always have to make sure he's not being too dramatic, but he's good now. So, okay. So our number 2. Okay, ready? All right, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. So this was box, B-O-X. I kind of wanted to throw a little, I tried to not challenging, but a nice little, not the same letters we see every time. Okay, number 3. We're gonna start getting a little bit bigger now. So number 3. And the reason I turn it sideways is that way you guys can really see it. So it's not like it looks kind of just like I'm doing the 1. You don't have to, when you're signing it, you don't have to go D, it's just D. So, oh, I told you, whoops, I'm sorry. Well, you got the first letter for this. All right, so here it is again. All right, I'm gonna do it once more. But I think I saw you both mouth it, so I think we're good. So yeah, so door. Yeah, good. I love whenever I can always like I'm one of those people, I'll look at everybody and I'll see you mouthing D O O.
That's what
Door.
I'm doing. I'm slow to type, but I am trying to figure it out.
Don't worry, I'm catching you. I'm watching you.
Okay.
I'm watching you mouth it, and I can always. We're very easy to tell when we're like, oh, we know it. Like we kind of make that head bob. So like I'm watching you. Don't worry, you're good.
Okay. Okay.
But okay, so that was our number 3. So number 4. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do it again. Okay, so yeah, so this one was book. Y'all are doing good though. I can see you guys are really picking up on them. Like it's not me having to say it over and over again. One of the cool things you'll probably catch yourself noticing it the more you practice with that is you're almost reading it instead of looking at each letter. I know right now in the beginning, it's like saying B-O-O-K, book. But then as soon you have a point later on where you're like, book, like you almost sound it out. Excuse me. Sorry, I have the hiccups. So, all right. Then we have, that was our, what was that, number 4, I think. So I think we're on number 5. I lose count. Okay. Number 5. All right, ready? Okay, I'm gonna spell it again. Okay. I'm gonna spell it once more. So this one was
Oh,
fork.
yay.
I chose a more challenging one than I tend to always in the first class always do kitchen words because that's all I see around me is my kitchen. And I'm not that creative. I try to be, but I think I like to say all of my creative energy is gone by the end of the day. So that's why I like look at my kitchen. I'm like, what do I see? And I was like, can't believe I've not done fork yet. That one's a good challenge because it's got the F and the K there. So all right, let's see, number 6. No, was that number 6? I think that was number 6. Number 7. I told you this is going to happen every class. I'm going to lose count of what number I'm on. So number 7. All right, ready? Okay. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to do it one more time. So this one was plant. Yeah.
Plant.
Plant.
P. That was P. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I kept doing it a few times. I was like,
I couldn't remember.
yeah. Well, and P is it's not always the most first thing you're gonna think of sometimes,
Mhm.
especially when we're learning. It's like, okay, well, the easier letters we pick up on, but there's some that will take a while. So that's why I was like, I'm gonna keep doing P and C. So okay, so then number 8. And then actually we'll probably stop at number 8 because it is like 6:13. And I want to give you guys at least enough time to do some numbers. So we'll stop at number 8. All right. Number 8. I gotta think of something real quick. Okay, I have one. All right. Here we go. Okay, so we'll do it again. Okay. And then let's see, we'll do it once more. All right, so here it is again. Mhm. Yes, you look so puzzled. You have it right. I think you were questioning yourself because I was watching. I was like, she's got it. I know she's got it, but she's not sure. So yeah, that was coffee. Yes, that was coffee. I understand. Finger spelling takes time, and sometimes you're like, did I see that right? Did I? And so it takes time. So yeah, so that was our finger spelling ABCs. I think we have a few quizzes like way back that you can use to like help you kind of practice. I'm gonna say this now so that way we have enough time later. Is my biggest recommendation is to really practice your ABCs. And the reason why is that one of the cool things I love about learning ASL compared to learning any other language is that if you forget the sign for a word, you can finger spell the word to someone and they can actually give it to you or they're going to know what you're saying. So, like, for example, like in Spanish, you couldn't really be like, you forgot the word for apple, and you're like, oh, and you try to say, well, what's the word, if you ask them what's the word for apple, and they're like, I don't know, you can't sound out apple, to them. So you have to almost go in this whole big describing thing, which you can still do in ASL, but it's just kind of nice that when you forget a word or a sign, you can be like, oh, hey, what's the word for apple? And then they'll usually tell you, oh, it's apple, or they'll know what you're saying and you can keep on the conversation. So I always think ABCs is like such a it's the biggest first step. You can get your ABCs down, you are at least into a point where you can have some form of a conversation. So I always really emphasize and recommend trying to practice as best you can. One of my favorite ways to practice is really simple. If you just look around the area you're in, even if it's at your house, at work, at the park, wherever, and you either look at, like, I do this all the time when I'm in the car and like someone's driving, like my parents are driving, is I look at the billboards and I try to finger spell the words on the billboard, or I'll try to finger spell the title or the person's name, whoever's on it. Or I'll look around me and I'm like, okay, well, I see a tree. I'm going to finger spell tree. Like I finger spell the words I see around me. And that really helped me improve my finger spelling, and especially getting to it's called fluid, but that smooth motion, it's not me going T-R-E-E or T-R-E. Like I can go tree and it's done. That very smooth. So that's a really good way to practice, is just kind of looking around you and like kind of practicing with that. And once you get more comfortable with it, you can almost make it a game, especially if you're driving, like not you driving, but if you're in the car with someone, and you can be like, well, how fast can I finger spell before the billboard goes away? And I will do that, as I will try to challenge myself. How fast can I spell that word correctly before it's gone? And so there's a lot of just simple games like that are really fun, but also really helpful with your spelling. So, okay, I had to say that now. What we're going to do now is our numbers. So we're going to probably get to about 1 through 15, maybe, and maybe even 10, we'll see. And then we'll stop. And then next class, we will continue on with our numbers. And then next class is going to be time stuff. So we'll finish up our numbers next week and then start on our time and do time next week, which will be a fun one. So, okay, the first sign I'm going to show you is the sign for number. So the sign for number is, you have two almost like little, they're not full circles, but they're little flat ones. And you go number. So if you're saying number 1, it's number 1. So number 1. Okay. So then we have what we just did, 1. So we have 1, 2, 3 is going to be our thumb. Yep, 3. Then we have 4, 5. And this is when our numbers start to change a little. Fun fact, just to add real quick, you can sign all the way up to 999 on one hand. That's like my favorite little thing to say. Yeah, I personally think it's really cool. I love telling people that. So we're going to be learning them all. Don't worry. So we're at our 5. So 6, what you're going to do is you're going to have your thumb and your pinky touch. So like what a lot of people do for 3. That's actually not 3, it's 6. And you can correct them. I am such a person, like I look at them, my sister will go, oh, there's 3 of us. I'm like, no, you're saying there's 6 of us. I'm that person. So just, you can use that for friends, just to tease them. This is 3, that is 6. Anyways. Okay. So then 7 is going to be your ring finger to your thumb, 7. And then our 8 is going to be your middle finger to your thumb, 8. And if you notice, it's going kind of in that pattern. It's coming, you know, we build them up and now we're coming back. So here's 8, 9, and then 10. Now, you may be wondering, okay, well, this is 9, but this is also F. What's the
Yes,
difference?
that was my question.
Yeah. Every time I get that question, and I'm always ready for it. So the way you would actually differentiate is, one thing is, most of the time when you're talking about like someone's name, you know, unless you're Elon Musk's child, which I'm like, you have your own area. Like, we are not worrying about that name because that's just such a complicated name as is. But most names do not have numbers in them, unless you're saying like the third, you know, or something like that. And even then I would have that slightly different. But, you know, so if you're trying to say, well, my name is Francis or Fran, F-R-A-N, you know, they're not going to look at you and go, are you saying 9 R-A-N, like 9 Ran? They're going to know you mean the F, the letter F, F-R-A-N. And that's the same with saying like, you know, my birthday is on the 19th, you know, or the 9th. You know, they're not going to say, oh, your birthday's F. Like, they're going to know that it's letters. A lot of things that, a lot of stuff with ASL is very much what's called context clues, like kind of just picking up on what the conversation is talking about in general. And so that's kind of like how you can determine like what it is. There is also, when in doubt, you can always do, if you're trying to say like a number, like for example, a password, or something, you know, or username, you can always, before you start like a number 9, you can do number 9. And then for the letter, like F, you would do letter, which is an L, and you just tap it on your pointer finger, letter F. So like if I was going to say, you know, Fran 2019. I don't know. Sorry, I was watching The Nanny before this, so that's all I'm thinking about is Fran. So I would do letter F, R-A-N 201 number 9. And I would do it that way. So that's another way you can do it. Most of the time you don't always need to, unless you're doing something like usernames or passwords, where it can be either one. And that also goes for W and 6. People notice the F's more than they do the W's and the 6's, but they are also the same. So, all right, then let's see. Let's go back through our numbers 1 through 10, and then we'll do 11 through 15. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9, and then 10. I always think about like how you build your fingers up, you know, you're getting bigger, 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 and now you're coming slightly back down. So if that kind of helps, like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like you make them wide, and then you're coming back to your thumb to shake it at that 10. That's kind of how I think of it in like the process. It's also very natural to get your 7s and your 8s mixed up. So if you're practicing and you realize you keep doing that, do not be mad at yourself. Do not be really hard on yourself, because I still get that way. I will still say the number 7 in class when I mean the number 8. I've gotten better this year. Last year, oh my goodness, I kept doing it, and my students would look at me and they'd just be like, do you actually mean 8 or 9 or 8 or 7? And I'm like, I mean 8 or something like that. So it's very easy to do because they're so close together. So it's okay. All right, now let's do our numbers 11 through 15. So what you're going to do for 11 is you're going to flick your pointer finger up. 11. And then 12 is 2 fingers flicked up. Your 2. 12. 13 is going to be now your thumb out, and you're almost making that come here kind of motion. I always think of that like come here. 13. And you want to make sure your thumb stays, like, you don't have to move your thumb, you just move your 2 fingers, but you want that thumb to stick out, because that's how you make that difference between 12 and 13. Because some people will do 12, instead of 12. I mean, it's not wrong, it's just different. But if you're trying to really emphasize, you're talking about the number 13 and not the number 12, you need that thumb sticking out. So 13. 14 is 4 fingers. Your thumb at this point is inside, again, almost like with that B. And now you're going to go 14. And then 15 is going to be your thumb out again, 15. And you want to make sure the back of your hand is kind of facing away. So you're almost looking at the inside of your hand, 15, yeah. And the reason for that is because you'll see when we do 16 through onward next week, because it changes, like it shifts a little. So let's do our 1 through 15 again, and then I'll leave the last few minutes for you guys to ask questions or need anything you want me to review. So, all right, we have 11. And we have 12. Then 13. Then 14. And then 15. Good. Okay. So are there any questions you guys have for me? Anything you want me to kind of go over, or just something you're just curious about? It's also my time for my water break. So
I'm taking this class because I have a little baby. So I'm looking for things that I can teach him as he's growing. So he's 8 months. So just anything that can teach him now as he's developing his language.
yes, well, you're actually doing a great first start. I promise I'm trying. Okay, no, I can't even promise. I'm totally biased. I know I am. I love
Gillian is about to get excited.
I am. ASL is such a great thing to teach little babies. And the reason I say that is, yes, they may not be able to get their fingers in that motion, like that perfect motion, but it actually has had some proven research done where it actually improves children's ability for language and for even spoken language. It helps helps it better. And one thing that I always think that just makes sense is, when they hit the age 2, the terrible 2s, a lot of time I think it's because they can't fully mouth, like they can't get the words out. So when they're trying to ask you, I want something, and you go, I don't know what you're saying. What do you want? They get frustrated. And that's why they get so angry so much, is because they cannot tell you what they want. And I always think ASL is such a good little kind of slide in, because, if they can show you the signs for this, it doesn't take away those temper tantrums, but it can almost lessen the amount of problems, because you're helping them get that communication. So yes, we will definitely, because one of the things I definitely would recommend is, you don't have to have just the few 3 or 4, whatever signs you learn in this class, you can still teach him. And he will, it's just like learning English. And when they, babble and they're blah, 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 they'll do the same thing with their hands. They'll start doing kind of motions like this. And, just encouraging that. It'll be so great. Like, sorry, I told you, I'm that person. I love it. And we're definitely, oh, you were so good. You heard it about car horn. If someone locked their door, they do that all the time. And so like it's the first time. But yes, we will definitely have words like, we'll do milk and want, water, all those really like the basic needs, to kind of build on. And yes,
we're ready for that. We're ready for all of those words.
Yes. And I promise, you should, if you keep up with it, and you don't even, and the thing that's cool too is you don't have to just do nothing, have to only sign the word. You can still be like, you want milk, and you will probably see there's a chance. I've seen some kids that they will look at the hand motion, and they heard you say it, but they're looking at that hand, they make connections. I'm sorry, I think language is cool, and I get so excited on it. That was some of my favorite things I loved learning in school, was oh my gosh, that's why we think this way. This is why I lost myself in it so fast, and I would sit there talking nonstop about it. So I'm trying to calm myself down, but we will learn words like that. That'll be perfect for teaching little babies. are there any other questions? I know it's 6:30. I'm gonna give any other questions you guys have, or are you good? If you do think of any questions, throughout the week or anything you want to kind of ask again to review, you're more than welcome to email Miss Katie. You can also hold it until the next Tuesday class and let us know then. Either way works. We always, one of the things we say with like, if you email, if it's something that like we aren't able to address, then I will try to address it either through explaining it, or I will try to get like a video of myself doing it, Gosh, we're almost done. Oh, but anyway, so yeah. So that's kind of sorry, I warned you. Meredith, okay. So that's kind of the way it'll work, is if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email or to bring it back to class next Tuesday. So, alrighty, well, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of y'all's week, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.